Yeah. It's terrible.
It's just a big project.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Huge project.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, June 25th. We're here for a work session. Please stand for the pledge. Tim, can you take the lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Every time you say that, I forget the words to it.
That's all right, you have backup. All right, thank you. Moving forward, we only have one discussion item on the agenda today. It's the building planning, HK Ventures, SEQA referral. Murphy and Bergman. Good morning.
Good morning, Supervisor, members of the Town Board, Greg Bergman, Town of Riverhead Planning Department. We're here today to discuss a SEQA referral in connection with a site plan application which was submitted to the Riverhead Planning Department. The site plan application proposes to develop a vacant parcel of industrial land with a phased development project which would consist of a total of 425,464 square feet of industrial space, which will be spread out across a total of 8 buildings ranging in size from 49,000 square feet through 56,672 square feet with divided tenant spaces. The proposed development also includes a 3,000 square foot accessory cafeteria for tenants of the industrial complex, as well as parking, lighting, landscaping, loading bays, stormwater management, and on-site sanitary systems. This proposed site plan application is a type 1 action pursuant to SEQA as it involves the disturbance of more than 10 acres. Type 1 actions require mandatory coordinated SEQA review with involved agencies. In my staff report on pages 1 and 2, I've detailed the involved agencies. The Riverhead Planning Board, by resolution number 2020-031, dated May 21st, 2020, classified the action as a type 1 action and circulated a request for lead agency to involved agencies. The SEQA coordination letter was sent out to involved agencies on June 10th. SEQA regulations require a 30-day coordinated period for involved agencies to respond to this request. If an involved agency fails to respond to the request, it is considered to have no objection to the request. The 30-day coordination period will end on July 10th, 2020. Just to detail the site location a little bit, the subject parcel is located at 4285 Middle Country Road. It is located on the south side of the road, approximately 570 feet east of the intersection of Middle Country Road and Fresh Pond Avenue. Subject parcel is located within the Industrial C zoning use district. The parcel is 30.2 acres in size. It has approximately 525 feet of frontage on Middle Country Road and extends approximately 2,600 feet south. The property is generally flat with the exceptions of some mounds of earthen material which have been grown over from vegetation. These are likely the remnants of historic farming which took place on the subject property. The property shares its western boundary with the recently built Tractor Supply site, as well as the Sky Materials C&D processing site to the west. Its eastern property boundary is shared with a farm parcel which is currently enrolled in the Ag and Markets Commitment Program, and the parcel's southern boundary abuts with the town-owned EPCAL property, as well as a portion of the EPCAL recreational bike path. The reason the town board received the lead agency referral is because in order to approve the site plan, the Riverhead Water District extension number 37R, Calverton, will need to be extended. Currently, only the front, approximately 500 feet of the site, is located within the water district. Approval of the action will require the town board to extend the water district to serve the entire parcel. I've attached with my staff report, I've given you the site alignment plan, which kind of just gives you a general layout of the project site. So at this point, you know, the lead agency request has been referred to you. The town board must make a decision if it wishes to challenge that lead agency request or if they have no objection to
Greg,
it.
I have a question. Who's, the cost of extending the, water district
That would be borne by the applicant.
solely? Okay.
I'm concerned about that, because of the water extensions that we have, currently under review with the New York State DEC, and this is such a big project, I think that, it's going to potentially be a problem. I'm also very concerned about the intersection of Fresh Pond and 25, and the amount of traffic that would be coming into this site. So-
That is something, Councilwoman, that the planning board has addressed when we come back. Once the secret coordination period ends, the applicants are going to be coming back before the planning board. Water availability was something that the chairman had already expressed great concern about, so that's something that would be studied under SECRA, as well as traffic impact was something that had initially been identified. There's a lot of variations with this. They're coming in for an industrial project, but there are a wide array of uses within the industrial C. So rest assured, these items will be addressed. You know, there is a large, you know, a scope of review that would take place.
I really am concerned because it's the first 500 square feet that are in the water district, and the back of the parcel, which it is long and narrow, the rear of the parcel is not served or in the Riverhead Water District. So I think that and the traffic are my biggest concerns.
I agree with that. Just so the board is aware, the planning department's recommendation is initially to issue a positive declaration on this project. Far and away, this is one of the largest industrial developments that the town has seen in quite some time, at least in the 4 years that I've been here. I've not reviewed anything. It's 30 acres in size. So there are significant concerns. They will be addressed through the secret process. But this is a project where, you know, the planning department absolutely feels that a positive declaration is warranted because of the scope of the project and just the sheer size of it.
And is the cafeteria permitted use in the industrial C?
It would be an accessory. So restaurants are not a permitted as of right use. This would be considered accessory. It would be used to serve the tenants of the building. Some of the just initial recommendations, you know, there should not, we're going to recommend during the course of the review, there should not be any signage advertising this cafeteria, you know, anywhere on Middle Country Road.
But a cafeteria is permitted as an accessory use in industrial C?
Correct.
Okay.
Just, I mean, if we didn't have the cafeteria, maybe they would go out and use some of the local businesses, but you're saying they're allowed to do it.
It would be an accessory use,
What
yes.
happens if what would happen if we didn't extend the water district?
If you didn't extend the water district, this project would not be able to,
That's what
they would not be able to serve
What I was
the
assuming.
water usage. So I mean, that is something that will require a detailed study. And I know Mr. Carey, the chairman of the planning board, his involvement with water districts throughout the island, it's something he's very acutely aware of, and, you know, that's one of his significant focuses. So that is something that will be studied, just in terms of water availability, if there's any sort of additional infrastructure that's needed, you know, in terms of the town to get water there.
I would mimic the concern for the traffic, not so much the traffic per se, but that intersection in particular of Fresh Pond. It's already a difficult intersection. Under SECRA, would they be required to make application for a light or signage or anything?
Well, so that is something that's come up in the project. I know that the applicant is preparing a traffic impact statement to
Right.
assess the traffic impacts. It is a state-controlled road, so
Right.
ultimately the decision to signalize the intersection would be a determination for the DOT. Preliminarily, the planning board, when we had a presentation to initiate the secret process, they did express concerns about traffic, not just as it relates to this parcel, but the surrounding development, you know, the potential development of EPCAL, as well as neighboring properties. So that's something that we need to look at in a broad scope under the secret review.
Yeah, I had a Boy Scout actually that came in, shout out to Eden from Timber Park, that said that was his biggest concern in the town, was that intersection of Fresh Pond and 25, so he might get his opportunity. We actually went over to planning, and remember, we tried to look for the recommendations from New York State DOT for the Tractor Supply as to why a traffic signal was not recommended there, so perhaps we can say that that is a big concern of ours for the people that live and try and get out onto 25 from Fresh Pond, and we can express our concerns to the state that we thought it should have been done with Tractor Supply, and if this project is going to get built, it should definitely be included in this project.
absolutely.
So this is right across from the entrance into Tractor Supply we're talking about.
No, it's on the same side of the road, it's on the south side, it's the parcel just to the east, so
No, I mean
they
the
don't share a
intersection
common
we're-
intersection.
The intersection we're referring to.
Yes, it is just, it's about 570 feet east of
I think
Fresh
this
Pond
will
Avenue.
add traffic to it. I don't really see that it's a big traffic problem now, but maybe I'm incorrect. I go to I used to live in Timber Park.
Yeah, if you talk to the people that live in Timber Park, they're saying it's very difficult to get out onto 25 to head east.
Particularly in the traffic season, I mean, I'm not denying.
I mean, there's no question, so, you know, in terms of just scope, you know, this is a project that's 430,000 square feet of industrial and there's also potential for, you know, offices are a permitted use within Industrial C, indoor recreation facilities like a rock climbing gym, some sort of that. So all of these issues and all of the potential uses will need to be studied under SECRA. For example, you know, if you come in with an industrial use, which is the least intense traffic generation use and the least intense parking use, you allow an applicant to build 430,000 square feet. If they can't find appropriate tenants for that use, now what happens if they want to have an office, you know, and put 10,000 square feet of office? That's going to significantly change trip generation, you know, traffic counts at that intersection. So that's something that will be needed, you know, studied in terms of their TIS.
You have to,
So
you
there's,
have to anticipate any future development that the zoning would allow for.
Correct. We wouldn't want to get ourselves into a position where we allow them to build 430,000 square feet, and then all of a sudden the they can't get tenants, and now you've got something that's significantly more intense. So that's something, you know, when SECRA looks at, you know, a hard look, that's something that will need to be studied, and as I said, will need to be incorporated into their TIS.
This hasn't required any zoning variances, correct?
No, sir. The industrial use, the building, the only variance that would be required, I believe, is for impervious coverage. But again, based on the size of this project, just the nature of it, how that may change. You know, there are, you know, there's impacts. They're going to propose the purchase of sanitary Pine Barrens credits to allow them to meet the sanitary density. So there's a lot of variables. You know, when this project is all said and done, it may change from 430,000 square feet based on, you know, feasibility, being able to provide parking, impacts to traffic, sanitary, that sort of thing.
I mean, there is a tremendous need for smaller warehouse spaces. The space just to the east of this is all full, and it always has been. So I think that the smaller warehouse, and now that, when I first got on the board, I proposed that we put manufacturing into industrial C, so there's a greater need for manufacturing also, but for smaller spaces.
No, I mean, it would be a good economic driver for the town, absolutely. It would produce ratables for the town, you know, but it'll be done in a, you know, smart fashion, be carefully considered, and, you know, we'll get a good project out of it.
So since 2003, when it was changed to Industrial C, it seems like most of those properties have gone to solar. So this is one of the few that is actually trying to use the
Right.
industrial
What it
zoning.
should be for, right? What it was
So
determined to be.
that's something to
Appropriate.
consider.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see the proposed flow for water for the warehousing, because that is something that we should take a look at as far as the warehouse use.
Correct.
Right.
And again, you know,
And
based on the wide variety of uses, water usage may change, which is something that will also need to be taken into account.
And would be conditioned in the approval.
Correct.
So, along the same lines as what Jody's asking, so this is a huge project. If we don't extend the water district, is this project done?
As far as I can tell, the project could not proceed without an extension of the water district. You know, I mean, it looks like, you know, they could probably develop the front 500 feet, but yes, in terms of the scope and size of this project, I don't see it happening without water being extended to serve the whole parcel.
Well, just for
So it's-
restrooms or whatever.
Yeah, it's 8 buildings. How many potential businesses could go in the whole project? I don't, how many?
I mean, I don't have I've got the site plan. I don't think they easily, you know, clearly identified the tenant spaces. I mean,
They can
5,
break the
10.
warehouse up into 10 spaces, 20
That's
spaces.
correct.
Yeah, I mean,
30
that's
spaces,
a, you know.
So
That's
the
their
warehouse
choice.
could be divided up into any number of spaces.
Correct, but I mean, you know, if you divide a 10,000 foot space up into 10 tenant spaces or 5 tenant spaces, you don't change the gross floor area. You know, you still have 10,000 square feet of a use,
No, I'm
whether it's
thinking-
divided, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of traffic and such.
But that, dividing the tenant spaces wouldn't lead to an increase. You still have the same, trip generation is based on the usage and the floor area. So if you have a 10,000 square foot building Whether you divide it up into 10 spaces or 5 spaces, it doesn't change the size of the building or the use. So that wouldn't matter whether you change, whether you, in terms of a traffic engineer's perspective, dividing the tenant spaces, into smaller rooms does not increase traffic.
So, and we only know it's industrial, you don't have any idea of the intended uses or
No,
anything
no
like
idea
that?
of the intended uses, and again, that's something that the applicant's gonna need to address just based on the variety of permitted uses within the industrial C.
And that would be something, we'll be looking at all of this when the environmental impact study's done.
Well, yeah, so, and again, so this, at this point, it's the board's, the board needs to decide, how they wanna respond to the planning board. Because right now, the planning board has requested lead agency for this project. If it, the board, like I said, planning staff's recommendation will be a positive declaration. We feel that there are enough significant potential impacts that need to be mitigated. So at this point, the town board, their duty is to respond to the planning board's request for lead agency at this point.
So do we wanna give the planning board lead agency, or do we wanna take lead agency? Is that the question?
Yeah,
Correct.
That's the
Yes.
question before you. The other point I just wanna make, if the, planning board assumes lead agency and does Osneck the
I
application
give it to the
requires an
planning board,
environmental impact statement.
because it has to deal with the water.
If
Sorry.
the planning board does assume lead agency and requires the environmental impact statement, you as an involved agency get copies of all public hearing notices and copies of all correspondence back and forth between the planning board and the applicant, so you'll be kept in the loop throughout the remainder of the process.
I tend to, since there are issues with the water and the sewer district, and we have a quite competent individual in our planning board, I would tend to go with the planning board.
You mean have them be lead agency?
Yes,
I prefer to have the planning board be lead agency, but, I mean, this whole water thing, the planning board must be aware of that issue.
Absolutely, oh, jeez. Absolutely. As I said, Chairman Carey is superintendent of a water district on Long Island. He's
Right.
acutely, aware.
He's our expert.
He's very, very aware of, one of the initial comments he said was, let's get this referred to the water district just to determine water availability. So that was one of the first and foremost things in his mind, so.
So the planning board could take it on and, the project still could proceed forward and we could figure out the water district and all that.
Absolutely.
And the other thing to point out is
I'm gonna
that,
agree with the
Dick
supervisor, I
Ehlers,
prefer to let the planning board take it.
Chairman of the planning board, he's also attorney for the water district as well.
I'm sorry, Jeff, what'd you say?
Dick Ehlers is the planning board attorney, but he's also attorney for the water district.
Okay.
Yeah, and Stan is, he's a governor appointee for the Long Island Water Conference.
I think he knows about water.
Okay.
so.
So is
do we wanna
the
take a
decision
vote?
from the board, sounds like the,
Let's
Yeah,
take
I'm
a
in
you're okay
favor.
with planning
Yep.
board?
Yes.
I'd
Yes.
take, give it to the
Planning
planning board, yep.
I say give it to
I
the
think
planning
we'd be
board.
better off in their hands because of the, because of the situation with the water. It's gonna have to be extended, and that's a big project.
Correct.
It's a big
And,
project and.
we're not looking
Yep.
to put water in jeopardy for the people in the area, so
Correct.
we wanna know that that's gonna be sufficient supply for them. And
And I fully
sufficient
trust
supply
them
for the
to handle
residents.
this correctly.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving forward, we have no other discussion, items. Can I have a first and second to go into, executive session concerning legal matters surrounding litigation entitled Town of Riverhead et al., the County of Suffolk. Matters surrounding litigation entitled John Wesley Village LP versus Assessor and/or Board of Assessors. And personnel matters surrounding the term and conditions of employees, and personnel matters surrounding change in status of an employee. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. Thank you, and have a great day.